Hi, I'm Jack Mullaney,
And I'm Evan Williams.
and this is our presentation on the serial killer Ted Kaczynski, who is also known by the nickname Unabomber.
So some background information on Ted. He was born on May 22nd, 1942, in Chicago, Illinois. He skipped 6th grade because of his 167 IQ. Clearly, throughout his lifespan, he was always very intelligent. This caused his bad childhood because he was bullied by the older kids he was now in school with. Another major cause of his bad childhood was a psychology test performed on him at Harvard University, where they used his childhood to actually insult him and see how he would react. And as you see on the right, he's pictured in the bottom right-hand corner with the arrow pointed at him.
His killing tendencies. His method of killing was with homemade bombs, typically made from scrap. On the right is a picture of one of these bombs remade. He would often use things like batteries, nails, and other things to make the bombs explode and kill the targets. In his bombs, he would also try to hide traps or tricks using his initials FC to make it seem like he was part of a group instead of an individual. His bombings lasted from 1978 to 1995. He also often targeted people who held jobs in modern technology, which were typically men. These people he targeted because he didn't like them or believe in what they supported.
So, his victims. His first kill was in 1978 at Northwestern University, with a homemade bomb very similar to the one that was on the previous slide. His first victim was an on-duty police officer named Terry Marker, and luckily he survived the bombing. He killed 3 people and injured 24 others throughout his entire career as a serial killer, which is obviously a large amount. He often targeted people who had modern jobs, modern technology, as Jack said, who were typically men.
Unabomb. So on the right is the original police sketch of him, which happened to not be accurate because the person describing him accidentally described the sketch artist instead of the person that she saw dropping off the bomb. The FBI and media had given him the nickname Unabomb, as a shorter abbreviation for who and what he targeted, which were universities and airlines. The bombs were sent through the mail and would often contain false clues, typically using his initials FC, which stood for Freedom Club, to make it seem as if he was part of a group instead of an individual, which he actually was.
His manifesto. In 1995, he sent his manifesto to major news stations, and he wanted it to be published, and saying he would stop the bombs if it were to be published. In his manifesto, called Industrial Society and Its Future, Ted makes points about how he believes the Industrial Revolution has negatively affected society and classifies everyone into a system. As you see on the right, it's a picture of the front cover of his manifesto, titled and named after himself. And he authored it by FC, which Jack mentioned is Freedom Club, trying to make people believe that he was part of a group instead of one individual person.
Discovery. After Ted had sent his manifesto, the police hesitantly decided to release it. They eventually decided to release it through major news outlets, and they would publish it on their websites or in their papers. David Kaczynski, his brother, recognized his brother's writing in the manifesto and thought it may be him. So he went to the police, and after the police had learned about his troubled past, they believed that it may be him. A linguist also then compared the manifesto with other writing pieces of Ted, and it turned out to be a match. In his writings, he often used the same words or different sayings that he also had used on previous writings, and he worded them the same way that he had before, which is uncommon for most people.
His life in Montana. He spent most of his adult life in a cabin in Montana, which he owned. When he was children, he and his brothers actually built the cabin. He spent most of his time in there, and he built all of his bombs in it, living without any modern technology. And as we learned before, he wanted to get rid of any modern technology and the people who developed it, because he believed the Industrial Revolution was the root of many problems. On the left, you can see a picture of his cabin that he and his brothers made when they were children.
His arrest. After the manifesto was released and the linguist had compared it, a warrant was issued for Ted's arrest. His cabin in Montana had all that evidence they needed for the arrest, with the bomb-making supplies throughout it. They arrested him on April 3rd, 1996, and on the right is a picture of him at the time of the arrest.
His incarceration. In 1998, he pled guilty, of the crimes that he committed. He was incarcerated at ADX Florence, which is a supermax prison in Colorado. It was this prison that was chosen because they wanted to make sure there was no chance of escape since he was a mass murderer.
Prison life. In the ADX Florence, which is also known as Alcatraz of the Rockies, the prisoners are kept in cells for 23 hours a day, with nothing in the room except their bed and toilet. In there, he made friends with 1993 World Trade Center bomber and the Oklahoma City bomber, and they would often discuss politics and religions and things throughout the world. A picture of both of them are on the right, and he was friends with them until both of them died or were killed by the death penalty.
So overall, we think a large part of Ted Kaczynski's killing tendencies and the reasons why he became a serial killer was in large part due to his childhood. He often was made fun of, and his flaws were always picked on by his peers and even in the psychological tests that Harvard performed on him.
Yeah, I agree. Ted's childhood really showed how bad he had it and really showed the reasons why he became a serial killer.
And in addition, I think that his time in his cabin in Montana, where he was distanced from other people and he was without technology, that helped him continue to think that technology was the root of evils during this time.
Yeah, the time alone in the cabin really took a toll on him. It made him just continue to think that the industrial society was a bad thing, which he explained in his manifesto.
Thank you.
Thank you.